Got it.
Yay.
It made me say that it was okay with recording.
Perfect. Okay, great. Welcome to our first interview with Creative Avenue. I am so honored that I get to interview Miss Karla, and I will let her share a little bit about her business, and then we'll just have a fun little dialogue. So Karla, can you tell me about what you do?
Sure. My name is Karla Kay and Benjamin. Um, and my business name is Karla Kay Art. And I am a fiber artist. My college degree is in fiber arts. I'm a textile artist, and I work primarily hand painting silk. And so I have a line of silk products that range from silk scarves to silk wall hangings to silk tassels to I've just started making some silk jewelry that's been going over really well. And the cards that I make are actually made from recycled remnants from the other silk processes, from the hemming process, from the scarves and stuff. And that's been received really well too. So I'm trying to grow that part of my business. But yeah, that's me. And I've been doing I got my, this is going to date me, I hate saying age stuff, but I got my college degree from Arizona State University back in 1989. And I worked teaching art for the first 5 to 10 years. Then I took a job with Snohomish County to do the responsible thing and make money. And I did that for 16 years before I went back to doing my art full time, which was in 2016. So I've had my business since 2016 going strong and loving every minute of it. It was scary to leave the county because that was a guaranteed income, but I have been exceeding my sales goals for my silk every year. So that's like the important thing.
That's amazing. How did you decide to switch over from working for the county to doing art full time?
Well, two things happened. Number one, well, three things happened. Number one, my mother got cancer and passed away. So that was kind of a blow. Then I had a couple of cancer scares myself. And I should preface, my mom died at 69. She died at a fairly young age. And
Yeah.
her mother had passed away at 70 from breast cancer. So when I had the two cancer scares myself, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I only have, 20 years left on the planet? Do I want to be working to the county to the end of that? I don't think so. So there was that. But then I'd also been given from I worked with therapists. Part of my job was to work with therapists. And one of the therapists had given me encouraged me to watch a DVD called The Secret. It's a book series,
Yeah.
and they have a DVD. And in reading through that, I just decided life was too short to be. I love my work at the county. Don't get me wrong. I think it was a very beneficial job, and I loved my clients, and I loved the staff, and it was great all the way around. But I wasn't fulfilling my nurturing. I wasn't getting enough me time. And so I just really wanted to go back and do my art. If I could do anything without having to worry about money, I would just do art 24/7. So that's between The Secret saying, you got to do what you love. And then, I took one of the secret exercises that they do is they say you should ask for something simple, the universe for something simple just to see what happens. And so the first exercise I did, I asked for a cup of coffee the next day, a free cup of coffee the next day. And I kid you not, I had 5 people bring me coffee. I thought by the 5th cup, I was like, no, I don't need any more coffee.
I'm caffeinated now. Thanks, universe.
And then the second thing I asked for, because they give you exercises that kind of go up. I asked for $1,000. I thought that would be kind of cool to have $1,000. I asked for it by the end of the week, and I actually got from out of nowhere, a $1,500 check from a house insurance company for a house. It was just like a fluke had happened, and I was due the money, and it was from a previous house sale.
Wow.
I mean, it was like from years back. It just came out of nowhere. They're like, oh, we're sorry. We were supposed to send you this and blah, blah, blah. And we're so sorry. Here's your money. And I was like, this is really cool. Okay, so now I want to be a famous artist.
I'm going to manifest that.
I got to warn you that when you're like trying to get the lottery, and you have to ask right. I haven't won the lottery. That was also on my list. But I made a vision board, and everything except for the lottery and the weight loss has happened. I'm working on those too.
Awesome. So how, like with your current artwork, like this is a total tangent. I know exactly what the secret is. And if people don't know what that is, I highly recommend looking it up. It's just about the law of attraction and manifesting what you want in life. So how do you use that in your business now? Like, do you find that you still use it regularly, or is it more of just like a natural?
Regularly.
Yeah.
And I tend to, unfortunately, use it when things are tough. I should use it when things are good as well as when things are tough, but I tend to use it more when I view things that are tough. You know, like if I'm not having sales, I'll just say someone's going to come in and, you know, they're going to want to have a whole, you know, set of scarves for all of their bridesmaids or something like that. And the whole manifesting thing, it really does work. You have to know how to ask, and you have to be careful because, you know, when you ask for money, you don't want someone to die to give you some money. You have to, you know, be somewhat intent about it. But thus far it works every time. And it's almost like, I was recently at a Bellevue market and I didn't have any sales in the morning. And I was like, someone's going to come in and they're going to want it for their whole wedding party. And someone came in and they wanted it all for their wedding party. I sold, you know, like 8 pieces, you know, and every one of the girls got one. And I believe it really works. You know, and it helps me get through times that are tough because I just know that things are going to come. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and nothing's going to sell all day. It gives me something positive to look forward to.
Yeah. And just trusting the process of like what you will
and when you have your own business, you'll learn your clientele. I don't want to make this, because a lot of people think of this as like hocus pocus hoodoo voodoo stuff, and that's not where I'm getting at. Yeah, but you'll get to know your clientele, because you had asked about advice to new artists. And it was actually my daughter that figured this out. I think I was too close, forced for the trees thing. I was too close to the problem to really see it. But like my stuff during the day doesn't really start selling until about noon. Noon to 3 is when I sell almost all my work. So I'll be sitting next to somebody who's like selling, you know, all morning. They're like, and they look over me like, I'm so sorry you haven't made any sales. I'm like, oh, it's okay. It'll happen. Yeah, it'll come. And then, you know, at 12:30, you know, I'll have 20 sales over the course of a half hour. So there's that part of it too. And I think that the whole secret in manifesting kind of helps me deal with those lag times. It's like, it'll be okay. Somebody will come and buy.
Yeah. When you first got started, how did you get into doing markets?
When I first got started, it was when I first started with my business, it was hard because in the past I'd always sold something you would hang on the wall, whether it was a watercolor or a painting or even the weaving I did some weaving projects. Everything was hung on the wall. So when I first started doing markets, I had the intent of everything hanging on the wall. But for me, hanging on the wall stuff doesn't sell nearly as well. And I don't know if that's my personality or how I project things or people that are attracted to my silk work. I had to learn to stuff that was wearable, the colors that people would wear, and the symbolism behind what people would wear, and the objects that were in something that people would wear. So I do some really beautiful ravens, but people tend to not buy my ravens. I do really beautiful horses, but people tend to not buy my horses. But if I do a flower with a bumblebee or a dragonfly or some type of winged animal, a hummingbird in it, it will sell before I'm even done with it. And the same goes with the marine theme. And I don't know if some of that's because of the markets that I go to are often located near the water, or if that's the age range of people who buy my type of work, because I'm usually looking at people that if they're buying it for themselves, they're 40 to 60. If they're buying it as a present, they're 25 to 30. And what a 25 to 30-year-old will buy for their mother-in-law or their, you know, their grandmother is different than what that grandmother might actually want, you know, but they receive. So I've had to kind of learn. And it's tough because everyone has a style and it just takes you a while to develop that style. And I don't think anybody can teach you style. You can try and mimic somebody else's style, but it never works very well. You just, and you won't know until you've done 100, 200, 300 pieces what your style actually is.
Mhm.
And you kind of have to establish that. The one thing about selling at markets has helped me as an artist is I do know what my style is. You sell your 1,000th piece and you're like, okay, I kind of know what's selling. And
Yeah.
you kind of feel it out. And I think some artists might fret at what I'm saying, like I'm not being true to myself because of what sells or what doesn't sell. But there is a certain amount of I want to, I need to make my car payment, and I need to make a cell phone payment. So
Mhm.
I need to make some things that actually move. But at the same time, if you don't believe in what you're drawing or what you're making, it's not going to sell either. You have to have some faith in that.
Well, and you have to obviously love the process because you clearly love what you do.
I do love what I do. I've had some struggles recently through COVID, not selling my work. I thought I initially did shows, and then I stopped doing shows. I actually sold the big car that was carrying all of my stuff around, because I thought I didn't need to do shows anymore because I was getting so many word of mouth
Mhm.
requests and purchases. But I learned that carried me through about a year and a half of COVID. But by the end of 2022, mid 2022, that had like dried up. So I learned that my shows are my advertising. I have to go to shows in order to keep my incoming work up, because people see me at shows and that's where um, they get an idea of purchasing my work, even if they don't purchase it for 6 months down the line. So I
Yeah.
learned that. But COVID also, some of the supply chains affected my materials.
Mm.
And certainly Trump economics drew up the price because I'm buying my silk from China. So, I can no longer afford to sell stuff that's been pre-hemmed by people in China. So I now I have to do all my own hemming. Whereas before I did some that were pre-hemmed and some that were hemmed. But if I buy something that's hemmed from China, the price like doubled, tripled in some cases. There were some scarves that I used to buy for $11.50 that are now $46,
That's a
without
huge
anything on them.
jump.
Yeah. So there's that. And then some of the chemicals that they use for some of the processes, the resistant stuff, are no longer, they couldn't get them. So
Mm.
they've worked around them. And now that they've worked around them, they don't want to go back to them. So that I'm frustrated because I'm trying to
Yeah.
I have to learn like totally new thing, on how to apply the resists. And the resists are the lines in my work for those people that don't know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about the process of making your scarves. Because I've seen like the videos that you post and they're absolutely beautiful. But like what does it take to actually like hand paint each scarf?
So a lot of people confuse my work with like a silk screen process, and I don't print. Silk screening would be printing, and I don't print anything at this point. I'm still doing everything by hand. So I buy the silk by the bolt because it's cheaper to get it by the bolt. Um, and I buy, gosh, I don't know, 50 yards at a time.
Wow, yeah.
Um, I cut it into 2 yard lengths and I wash it to make sure that there's no cocoon residue or hand residue from people handling the silk when they're making it, because that hand lotion can affect the way the dyes. You can literally get little handprints if you don't wash it. So I wash it and then I cut it to size, whether I'm making a very small scarf or a very large scarf. And then I put it on a stretcher frame. So this is all time consuming because you're doing all this. And then I have to put it on a stretcher frame. And then if I have a real talent, a real knack. I don't want to say this in a bragging kind of way. I can draw flowers and leaves like there is no tomorrow. I don't need to look. I have several garden plants. I live in, well, the Pacific Northwest. I live on 5 acres. We're right next to the Pilchick Tree Farm. And so, I mean, I've got ferns and lilies and everything's just growing. Anything that falls to the ground grows. So I just draw from what's around my house. And those are really quick, really fast, very easy for me. I add some bees and some bumblebees and some hummingbirds, and it's very, very quick. And so I'm able to offer those kind of economically because I don't have to do any preconceived design drawing work. But if I'm doing wall hangings for someone, or wall hangings for my booth, I have to actually do a pencil drawing for the most part to see where everything gets placed. And then I can sometimes freehand it just straight onto the silk I work with an iPad. I do those drawings. I used to do them all on paper, and I have like 1,000 paper sheets all rolled up, but I do these off of Procreate now on the computer, and it kind of works like a light board because I can just stick it under the silk and trace it if I need to. Like,
nice.
When you're drawing eyes and you don't want one eye big and one eye small, or when you're drawing stuff that needs to be, I can trace that for the most part. But you have to be fast. Here in Seattle, for the particular type of artwork I do, people oftentimes would rather make it than buy it. I can do that myself. I could do that. You get a lot of, I could just make that myself. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. Because it's not as easy as it looks. But you'll get that type of response. So I need to reduce the time so I can keep the price down so that people will actually still buy my work. And my pieces range from $5 from a small tassel. I've sold pieces up to $500 for a very complicated large wall hanging. And to put that in perspective, I'm selling painted silk. I mean, while it does have longevity and it does have great history in Japan and in China, and around here, fabric textile arts aren't as, I'm going to say, desirable. I mean, they're not as sought after. People can't say, oh, I just can't wait to get that next, artistic scarf. That's just not like you would normally hear somebody say. So that I have success at it, I can't think, kind of speaks to itself, that people actually look at it and buy it and request more. And I have patrons that have bought 15 or 20 of my pieces. Just amazes me. And every time I get a paycheck, I'm like, oh my God, I did this selling scarves. How many scarves did I sell?
Well, I'm curious with that. Like, so what's the best feedback you've ever gotten from a customer? Like, do you have any review or any, I don't know, word of mouth feedback that they gave you after they purchased?
The uniqueness that I've done stuff that's very lifelike. So I had a lady have me draw her pet horse, and it just came out stunning. And I had a young writer who competed, and they had me do her horse. They have to wear a bandana for part of their showing, and I did this bandana of their horse, and it did come out looking just beautiful. Like I was stunned. I'm not known for making things look exactly like something, and I was like, wow, I did a really good job. So I've done that a couple of times with the horse stuff. I have a lot of people blown away by the 3D. I have a lot of depth in my pieces, and that's not always easy to achieve because the way you make the scarf. So after you stretch the scarf and you do the drawing, then you draw with the resist, you draw the lines, which work like a fence to contain the dye. Or to keep the dye out. They keep the dye in, or they keep the dye out. So when you're doing drawing like that, it tends to make it very flat so that I have any depth in my piece. I did a series of really large butterflies, and the wings the butterfly looked like it was jumping off the silk. And
so cool.
I was amazed. I took a photograph and everybody was like, man, I don't know if it's your photography or if it's that piece, but that's amazing. I'll try and send it to you so you can.
Yeah, I would love to see that, because I know it, like, I've obviously seen your stuff in real life, and like everything's beautiful in person, and it photographs really well too. But I think for people who don't know you yet, it would be cool to share that when we post
I'll show you that. And that's actually from a few years back. I think that my drawing has improved a lot. But I was taking a lot of chances back then, and I kind of think I need to take more chances now. I need to like step out of my comfort zone and try and push myself, which I am inadvertently doing with these new resists that I've had to switch to, because they all have a different talent. And so I'm kind of learning how to cheat the system a little bit. But the realism and the color, my use of color, everybody always comments on it. And I'm kind of surprised because I didn't do that well in color in school. When you take fiber arts, you have to take a class in color, and it's not an easy class. And I did not do very well. Despite all my efforts to do well, I did not do well. But everybody always comes up and says you do color so well. And I think it's just because I'm fearless when it comes to color. I'll put anything next to anything. And certainly I when I do a piece of work and I do the drawing, I just freehand and free color in the foreground.
Mhm.
And then I'll put it into Procreate. Procreate has been such a wonderful program. If you're not familiar, it's a drawing and graphic program for Apple machines. Unfortunately, it's not available on Samsung stuff, but it's a $10 charge versus Photoshop and those others, which are a subscription.
Expensive, yeah.
Yeah. But it allows me to actually take a photograph of a piece that's half done, and it becomes a line drawing in Procreate, so I can color in the white spots. So I can just have I'll have to show you the next time. I'll bring my iPad the next time we meet up and I'll show you, because it's very, very cool. So I can create drama or create mellowness, if you will, by the colors I choose to put next to each other. And you'll see in my work, kind of feel like it's a little trade secret, but I use like a lot of complementary colors next to each other, and that makes things vibrate. It makes things jump. And so people always want the drama in my work. In fact, I guess if that was one thing I would say, is that people tend to like the drama pieces more than the passive pieces. I think that they want to see for the marine stuff, they want to see the squid attacking the boat. They want to see the squid ferry. They want to see the octopus about to hit the fish. They don't want the nice serene, boat in the sunset. They want to see something about to happen.
Well, and I think that's different too, because I think like the boat and the sunset and all that stuff, like as beautiful as it is, it's very overdone. Like I think so many artists do that, and it's a great way to get started. And I know we're coming at the end of our time, and I do want to ask you, my very last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self when you first got started?
I wish I'd never gone to work for the county. I wish I just stayed. I found out after I pursued my county job that there were actually some artist opportunities that were coming my way that I didn't stick with. And I should preface that my county job allowed me to do my art. They actually hired me to do art as in the area of community service projects because I was at juvenile court for kids that had committed offenses that couldn't be completed at a normal spot. So if a kid has a drug offense or any type of sex offense or violent offense, the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA is not going to let them do their community service there. So there were a few juvenile services assistants that provided avenues for those kids to get that community service filled. And it's a big part of their contract. They'll get 100 hours, especially if there's like any expense involved for restitution and stuff like that. They'll get a lot of community service. And it usually happens like if you have a kid that steals a band instrument or something like that. Those instruments are expensive. And so I would work with them and have, put them together with mentors and stuff to help artist mentors to help them get some skills and learn more about a more positive way to be. So I did still do my art at the county, but I wish I had just stuck to my own art full time, because I just can't. I wonder where I would be now. My college professor told me when I graduated, now she says it takes 10 years to become a self-supporting artist on average. There's people who luck out, no doubt. And there's people that take a little longer, but it's 10 years. And you really have to have a supportive partner or people around you helping you out, because even with this business, and I feel like I'm pretty successful. I think I'm regionally renowned. I've sold some stuff to Europe and sold some bigger projects. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm doing okay. But I've almost given up a couple of times. And if I've almost given up, I can't even imagine, if you haven't been able to make very many sales, where you'd be. 10 years. It takes 10 years. And it really does. And I left. I was on my way there and I left. So then I had to start over again, 2016. And now it's 2023. And there's been a couple of times where I wanted to quit, and my husband's like, "No, we've stuck through it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna get through." And every year I do a little better. Every year I have a little more success. So,
Well, and I
and
feel like you aren't a real artist if you haven't wanted to quit at some point. Being an artist is not easy, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Like, it takes a lot of work to have an artist business succeed. And you have to love what you do, like loving what you do, working hard, like trying new things. Like, that seems to be the most, that's what I'm hearing a lot about what you've done over the years of, like, you've
and
adapted with what's
not,
going on in the
yeah,
industry.
the these cards that I've recently started, I don't know if we're going over our time, but I've recently started
Okay.
doing cards with the scraps that I had from the hemming process of the silk. And I've had these scraps for a long time, and I thought about doing something with it, but it was so different than drawing on silk that I was afraid to try it.
Mm.
But I've just basically stick a bunch of scraps on the sewing deck and then sew them together. And you may or may not use a bonding fabric. There's all different kinds of ways you can do this. You can just lay the scraps on the sewing machine and just start doing a circle and get them bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll make it a new fabric.
Mhm.
And I was afraid to involve this in my business because it's so different from painting and having an image on the silk. This is totally abstract. You have very little control. It just
Yeah.
kind of goes together however it goes together. But oh my gosh, just hit the ground running. I did I did 100 cards for Edmonds, and they were sold out in 20 minutes before this fair even started. People just came
That's
by and they
awesome.
bought like 20 cards at a time. It was just, I was blown away.
Mm.
So you have to and I didn't think that it would fit within my art. Like, it didn't really fit with anything I did, but
Yeah.
I guess it did. It's almost like felting.
Mhm.
And people really, really liked it. So now I'm thinking about doing more abstract work because of that, because I have been just drawing all these detailed pictures. But with the issues I've been having with the resist lines, I'm wondering now maybe I should just do abstract stuff. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. But you have to be open to it. You
Yeah.
know, it's one of those one door closes and, God opens 5 more doors, and don't get stuck in the hallway too long and look for the window. You know,
Yeah.
but you have to just be willing to deal with what comes your way, because so many people, well, this is all I want to do and I don't want to do anything else, and I,
Mhm.
only want to sell it for this amount of money. And if you don't sell, if you're an artist making a lot of work and you don't sell it, you're an art collector. You're not an artist. You have to let things go.
Well, I'm excited to see what you create this next year, and excited to see the cards in person.
Yeah.
I haven't seen those yet. And I feel like I could talk to you for hours about this stuff, but I think for the sake of our interview today, we can wait. But thank you so much for letting me interview you and talking about your work. And I'll share your links and stuff when I post the video on the social webs. And
Yeah, it's
that's,
Karla Kay Art, everything. Yeah, Karla Kay Art. You can find me on social media. That's my social media handle. I guess that's what they call it. Social media handle. Karla Kay Art. And yeah, and I'm always trying to improve that as well. Always trying to figure out a better way to create a video, or to get people's attention, or to let them know about my work, or other artists' work. Do a lot of PSAs for other artists. You're not going to do this on your own. You're going to have a network, and you have to support each other.
You really do.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm going to
Thank
complete
you.
our recording, but we
Okay.
will talk again soon.
Okay.